Hello again, everybody. Ben Garrett here for On 3 Rebel Grove and Mudcat Media, alongside Barstool's Ben Mintz for another edition of Week 2 college football picks, another week of picks. And Mintz, first and foremost, man, how you doing? Last week was a productive one, an insane one in college football as far as results. Kind of what did you think about Week 1 and how's everything going?
Man, everything's good. My Texas and Baylor picks didn't age the best on the show, but, I ended up making a little money over the weekend, so can't be too bad. Great Week 1, man. Just excited to have college football back. I think one thing you saw last week was the offenses take a little while to get going, and you saw it in the Texas-Ohio State game. You saw it in the LSU-Clemson game. The defenses start out a little ahead of the offenses. I thought that was a little bit of a theme. But then when you look at Week 1, the fall of Alabama football,
Golly.
you just got to love it. Like, you wonder what you're even watching. I mean, Florida State just took it to them from start to finish. Gus Malzahn getting some revenge on Bama. But all these, I don't want to say idiots because it was colleagues of mine, but there were people that I really respect saying Bama was going to make the national championship and stuff. And I was like, what are y'all watching? And it feels like I don't know how bad it's going to get this year, but man, everybody's lining up to take their best shots at them after the last 15, 20 years. And, that I thought the Florida State win was a huge story. And then the LSU thing, the defensive improvement from LSU after spending 15 to 20 million on the roster. I mean, their defense hadn't been good for years. You think back, they've always had historically good ones. Shutting out Clemson on the road in the second half was super, super impressive. So you got to immediately think they're one of the favorites in the SEC.
Well, what was so crazy about the Alabama result was how uninspiring all of the talent of Alabama looked. Even the guys that were supposed to be their absolute studs. Ryan Williams has just not had a good run of things lately, the star wide receiver. I mean, just you're used to seeing star power for Alabama, and now it seems like, at least online on 3, wherever you get your news and your information. I hope it's on 3 because there's no better place on the internet to get this kind of stuff. The message boards have just been lighting up. Kalen DeBoer and that $60 million buyout. You're already hearing rumblings of can they afford it, but then another report comes out that they're a little behind as Alabama in NIL than other schools right now. So, like, how prohibitive that would be. Just the fact that these are the conversations after Week 1 is wild enough on its own,
No doubt. And, hey, watch out. Bama, 18 years ago, the University of Louisiana Monroe went to Tuscaloosa and won. I mean, who knows? No, they're like plus 38. But if DeBoer did lose to ULM this week, he would get fired Monday. I'm very much sure of that.
Yeah, like there's no buyout prohibitive enough if you try to suffer that kind of loss, especially with losing as many as 3 games last year. So yeah, it's an interesting season ahead for Alabama. That was probably one of the biggest storylines. Not probably, was one of the biggest storylines of Week 1. Another one was kind of the unimpressive start for Arch Manning right in Texas, and a lot of it had to do with Texas. I mean, because look, Colin Simmons and that Texas defense, I think, are going to be just fine. Ohio State has one of the better defenses in college football as well, so you try not to draw too many big judgments or having too many snap judgments after that. But for you, how shocked were you that Arch kind of went about it that way and just did not have the start that many were hoping to see from him? And I think a little bit of it of all of it, Mintz, was that the media did not set him up well at all, man. I mean, they crowned him, and if he didn't meet those expectations, there was nothing to do for him but for him to let people down, right? And I just think that that was about as bad as a result as he could have hoped for.
Yeah, the first half especially was rough. He did play better in the second half, and they got stopped on the goal line. They had a drive with a chance to tie it in the end. Texas actually outgained Ohio State. Their defense, as you mentioned, held Ohio State to 202 yards in this game. Then Texas outgained them like 320 to 202. Tough spot for Arch having to start at Ohio State Week 1. I still think he's going to be fine. But like you said, I mean, they crowned him the Heisman Trophy winner before, he started his first season, his first start of a season as a starting quarterback. But I still think he's going to be fine. I do, but maybe you lower expectations a little bit. You got to give credit to Matt Patricia, who I talked a bunch of smack about, and he came out and shut him down. So
he did. And you know what? It's fascinating to see that kind of like shift, because while Bill Belichick, that was a disaster, and you and I called that last week, man. It's just like, this is not the Bill Belichick era. It doesn't make any sense. It's a clunky fit, and man, it couldn't have started worse. But Matt Patricia, man, before the Lions run as a head coach, he was a really good defensive coordinator, and he was scheming against some of the best quarterbacks to ever come through football. And now you're telling him to scheme against a first-year starting quarterback in Arch Manning. I bet he was licking his chops. Without a doubt, some of the best talent in college football collectively on defense. So, yeah, I think Matt Patricia made a statement last week. He's one of the biggest winners for me last week.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But, I think we're all winners just having college football back. And
yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been waiting all offseason. And, I thought there was a lot of good out of the Ole Miss effort too. Obviously Simmons had the 2 first-half picks. He got hit on that first one, threw kind of a bad one in the red zone. But, the ball looks great coming out of his hands. He's able to push the ball down the field. Lacey looks like I was hearing about him all camp, the way he emerged as the top Ole Miss running back. He looks like a dude. Daquan Wright had a huge game. We saw him emerge late second half last year. I mean, I thought there was a lot to like about the Ole Miss thing. If there's one thing that's concerning, I know it's the O-line thing. And we're going to find out a lot about that at Kentucky. But I thought the defense looked real good. I mean, it's always hard to judge the G5 games because the Lane Kiffin era, Ole Miss just kills these G5 teams. Because if they can't, win the line of scrimmage battle with Ole Miss's up-tempo offense, they score 50 every time. And so, we fell into that a little bit last year with the 4 early G5 games, or Wake's not their Power 5. But, you kind of just got to – we're going to find out Saturday when we get in the SEC.
It's one of the highlight games of the weekend. One thing about Ole Miss's performance in the offensive line specifically, Pro Football Focus released its grades for Ole Miss Georgia State. All the offensive players that participated, 31 players, 4 of the bottom 7 were starting offensive linemen for Ole Miss. And the worst scoring or graded, I should say, player for Ole Miss offensively was Patrick Kudus, the transfer guard from Arkansas. I think a lot of it, Mintz, is this group had not practiced together, had not played together ever before. Kudus looked as rusty as a guy who has not played a lot or practiced a lot for the last calendar year. It's only up from here, but I don't think that was it wasn't a good start for anybody, but I also don't think, projecting forward, it was a good measuring stick for what they could be. This weekend, if it's the same song and dance, there's no excuses anymore. There's a real problem, right? But I think for the first game, that was a group that had never played with each other, even in practices in fall camp, because they were protecting Diego Pounds and Jaden Williams, and Patrick Kudus was another one. I just think that, before anyone jumps to any conclusions about Ole Miss having a terrible offensive line, especially in the interior, let's see how they hold up against Kentucky, who does have a front and a defense, a Mark Stoops front and defense that can challenge SEC teams. He'll always have that.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'm glad Deion Walker's not there anymore because he tore Ole Miss a new one last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 3rd-round pick by the Bills, that D tackle. I look at this matchup, and I'm a point spread guy always. Man, I feel better about Ole Miss than most people do because we're all scarred. Look, let's be real. We all have scars from last year, and how could we not? 17-point favorite, losing to a 4-8 team at home. I mean, that was about as painful as it gets. But Vegas and DraftKings putting this line out, I saw it open at 11.5. It's down to 10. Man, they're baiting you to bet Kentucky. I mean, they're saying, man, you can take a double-digit home dog. And the game this reminds me of, this is the same line they put on Ole Miss at South Carolina last year. And I remember everybody was like, hey, how was Ole Miss a 10-point favorite in Columbia? And that was one of the best Ole Miss efforts of the season when they won 27-3. And the whole key, if Ole Miss can block them, Lane's going to be ready. Had this game triple start because of what happened last year. Zach Alzada, Kentucky's quarterback, sucks. I mean, I'm just going to point blank say it. I know he had the good game against Bama in 2021 when they won 41-38, but he's on his 3rd school now. He was like 10 for 23 against Toledo last week. Kentucky's passing game has been a nightmare the last few years. Their only hope to win this game is to win that battle line of scrimmage and muck it up. I don't think Kentucky's going to score a ton of points. So I'm not cocky by any stretch of the imagination. It's a road SEC game. It's a revenge game. But I feel good about Ole Miss this week.
Well, the funny thing, Lane Kiffin was on the SEC teleconference on Wednesday, and he made a hilarious comparison of Zach Calzada to, college football. College football is Joe Flacco, which I thought was just fantastic. He's you're starting to see guys that have been in school, like Kiffin said, for 10 years now. Not that it's an exaggeration. Calzada hasn't been in that long, but
I don't know anyone that goes to college that long.
Yeah, I swear there's not a guy I'm talking to right now that is in there. No, not Ben Mintz. The over/under for Ole Miss Kentucky is 52.5. What is for you? Like you mentioned that it reminds you a lot of South Carolina last year. Vegas trying to get get you to bet on South Carolina sides to take South Carolina. What do we like about the over/under? Do you think that's about right? Because honestly, I do think there is a payback component to this. Last year's loss to Kentucky just derailed so much of what Ole Miss had as far as expectations. I think this means a lot to Ole Miss. And actually, if you look at the talent base, Kentucky's not as talented as last year, but it means nothing really when you look at Ole Miss and Kentucky's a series history, especially lately. But what do you think about the over/under 52.5 and how this can kind of play out?
I lean under. I don't think Kentucky's very talented on offense. And like I said, if Kentucky's going to have a shot in this game, I mean, they're going to have to try to win 20-17 or 17-14 or something like that. I think Ole Miss's defense is going to hold Kentucky under 20 points. I'm pretty dang confident in that. I do think Ole Miss will score. It's hard to read the Ole Miss side because of the O-line thing. Because ultimately, I like the depth of weapons. I think the running game should be there with Lacey. You got a deep wide receiver core. I would lean under. I've got this thing like Ole Miss like 27-13, 27-14, something like that. And I think Ole Miss, Simmons is so talented. I love him. But Ole Miss is going to try to run the ball and be balanced. This is his first on the road SEC start. And so it's like a hard thing because you can't not be excited about him. I mean, look at the ball comes out of his hand like a rocket. I mean, you can see the arm talent, the playmakers, but he's still young. This is his first SEC road start, so you've got to be balanced in the running game. And so I kind of think, like I said, I'm going to go Ole Miss 27-14, something like that.
Probably the biggest game, at least as far as name matchup, is Michigan at Oklahoma, -6.5, over under 46.5. For you, what do you think about this game, how it sets up, and what other games are you really eyeing for the weekend?
Man, so this one's interesting. Oklahoma was a 3-point favorite all summer, and now it's, I've seen 5.5, 6, 6.5. But I think this is a really tough spot for Michigan. And I think this is a high line. I think they may be baiting people to take Michigan. Bryce Underwood, extremely talented. Nobody's denying that. But true freshman, can you really judge a New Mexico game? I mean, New Mexico's defense is like a high school defense. Now you're going on the road at Oklahoma week 2, and I'm a John Mateer fan. I thought he was really good at Washington State. He's mobile. He's a dual threat. And, you look at Oklahoma last year, their offense was in the hundreds. I mean, they were terrible. They couldn't block. Their receivers were all hurt, but they did play defense. And, we saw what they did to Jalen Milroe at the end of the year last year. I think Michigan's going to really struggle to move the football in this game. And I actually like Oklahoma even laying the points. I think they win this thing by 10-14.
Here's the thing, man, and it feels like college football right now is starved for star quarterback play. Like if you could pick Garrett Nussmeier, you could pick Cade Klubnik, Arch Manning, but like all of them are flawed in their own ways. Now I think the star quarterback in college football that's checking the most boxes right now is Garrett Nussmeier. But as far as overall, like if you were trying to take stock on this quarterback pool in college football, it's hard after week 1 and seeing the oozing talent of Bryce Underwood to not take him at least long term. But for this weekend, I think you're onto something there. Brent Venables and Oklahoma's going to play defense, right? And this is his first start on the road in a tough place in Norman. It's a lot to ask of the kid, but where I think it could get really funky is if Bryce Underwood is actually that transcendent talent that he perhaps is, right? I mean, this is a 5-star kid. Tom Brady poured money into Michigan to make sure they pulled him from LSU. I mean, this kid was brought here and paid the money he's being paid as a true freshman to go and win games like this on the road in Norman as a transcendent talent. So that's the wild card for me. Even though it's an obvious wild card, it's a hell of a wild card,
No doubt. And then also, Michigan's always tough up front. And I know Mason Graham was the 5th pick of the Browns, but Oklahoma's offensive line stunk last year. So, we saw what Michigan's defensive front did to Ohio State and Alabama in that bowl game. So the Oklahoma line's got a massive, massive test here too. But the Mateer mobility, I think, is a big factor here, though. I think you can always kind of cover up a leaky offensive line if you got a quarterback that can move a little bit. And I think he's going to make enough plays. And ultimately, Underwood could come out and easily prove me wrong here, though. But if he does, man, you go on the road as a true freshman, your second start, Oklahoma on a Saturday night, you win this game, you've really done something.
I'm saying now this is probably not for a lot of other people, but I mean, name cache, Arizona State at Mississippi State is just fascinating to me.
It is.
That,
No, and
yeah,
I thought Mississippi State, look, Southern Miss fought them first half. State dominated that second half. This is a tough spot for Arizona State. Night game, the cowbells will be out. State's going to be – this is a signature game for Jeff Leppi. He kind of got a little bit of mulligan first year after everything that happened with Mike Leach passing, and then the whole roster transferred out. I mean, last year was a total reset. But they looked better last week, especially in that second half. They're catching 6.5. I think Mississippi State fights in this game. I think they've got a better shot than most. I wouldn't take Arizona State. I would lean State plus 6.5. I'm not sure I'm going to pull the trigger, but I wouldn't take Arizona State. I mean, this is these West Coast guys coming into this atmosphere. It's, I don't know. This one kind of reads a little tricky to me.
You can't replicate those cowbells. And I want to say this too. Kenny Dillingham, I think he's awesome. Really, like he's a perfect new age coach. He's all about ball. But when it comes to absolutely butchering this whole narrative he tried to build about like casinos and stuff with Mississippi State and Mississippi, you and I are from around here. That like, buddy, you don't know what you're stepping into. You've already missed the mark as far as where you're traveling. You know what I mean? Like you don't understand what you're coming to at all. So that's where it makes it even more intriguing to me. Is like, yeah, as good as I think Arizona is and could be a college football playoff team, this is going to be something that none of these guys, obviously, if you even listen to what Kenny's been saying about those casino stuff, like this is an environment that none of them have seen before, even though it's a state team that has been, dealing with some rough times lately.
Yeah, they finally caught. I mean, I know State's NIL and Ole Misses and not, but they finally got it together this off season and spent some money. And this roster's upgraded. It's got some experience. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying State's going to be like really good or anything this year, but they're not. I don't think they're a disaster either. So I don't know. I expect them to fight here. I think this is a big one.
What's your favorite games that we haven't talked about yet? Is it Illinois at Duke, Iowa at Iowa State, Baylor, SMU?
Kansas, Missouri is really interesting to me. Kansas is catching 6.5. Missouri, Brady Cook's gone. Missouri has a tendency to play a lot of close games, and like maybe they pull them out a lot, but I like Kansas plus 6.5 with Jalen Daniels, who's been starting at quarterback forever. I think Lance Leipold's underrated, one of the best coaches in the country. Kansas spent big money in NIL, and this is kind of an old Big 12, Big 8 rivalry. I just think this is a game that's like a field goal game that goes down to the wire. So give me the Kansas plus 6.5. That's one I'm looking at pretty good. A couple other quick ones. I think Vanderbilt can win at Virginia Tech. They're getting 1.5. Drones for Virginia Tech. I mean, Virginia Tech's defense played well against South Carolina. I mean, you watch that game. Virginia Tech had the ball the whole first half. South Carolina had a punt return for a touchdown, and then they hit Nick Harbor on a bomb in the fourth. But it wasn't like Sellers really started or anything. But I think Vandy can grind this out while Pavia's still healthy. He was banged up last year with how much they ran him. I know this is a revenge game for Virginia Tech, who lost in Nashville, but I just come back to what I said last week about Virginia Tech. I just think it's a rudderless football program. What are they? And I think Vandy, Clark Lee will have them ready. I think they can pull it out. And then the last one I had an opinion on, LSU might win by 70 against Louisiana Tech. I know those schools well. Tech can't move the ball. They scored 3 points against Southeast Louisiana week 1 in the first half. I mean, and then, LSU's got like 6 people on their staff that used to work at Louisiana Tech, including offensive coordinator Joe Sloan and defensive coordinator Blake Baker. And I think this is the game where Nussmeier gets in the rhythm with the receivers. And, it's 37.5. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's the best, but I just don't see how Tech scores more than 7 points. I mean, they're just horrible offensively. So those are kind of few. And, yeah, that was kind of most of the ones I was looking at this week.
Well, let's just put it this way. You and I have been longtime SEC guys our entire life. We grew up around here, man. To see that environment for Vandy last week was so dope, right? I mean, that was so cool to see a packed-out stadium. They've got something going. They've got some Pavia mania, and also, Theo Vaughn's on the sidelines and stuff. They're embracing the Nashville component. It's kind of cool to see Vanderbilt have a little bit of a glow-up, right?
Yeah, it's a shame. The South's, the South's greatest rivalry, Ole Miss Vandy, no more.
No,
really is a shame, I know.
That almost has to hope for a man. Was it Jonathan Nichols kicking a 54-yarder to beat him?
I was there. I was at that one.
Yeah,
maybe Ole Miss and Vandy can meet in Atlanta. Redo it.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to go about it. You mentioned LSU hanging 70 this weekend, or winning by at least 70 this weekend. Would LSU, if you were having a top 25, would they be your number one? Like, how do you kind of rank these teams? Who do you think are the good teams in college football right now? The
I
college
wouldn't have
football
them number
playoff
one.
contenders.
I mean, the Penn State thing I like a lot this year just because they got so much back. And also, I love Jim Knowles, that defensive coordinator. So I've got them in Ohio State at the top. You got to use the Ohio State thing. You got to give them credit for shutting down Arch. They're defending national champs, and that win week 1, you can't lower them because of that. I think I'd have LSU at 3, though. You go on the road, win against a top 5 team, and then the defense looking that improved with Nussmeier. I mean, there's a lot to like there. So that's probably how I'd have it right now.
All right, then give me the Mintzy SEC power rankings here on this
Ooh.
Mudcat Media edition of Mind of Mintzy, right? Like, I need to know how you'd rank them because it's hard for me right now.
Oh, it is.
Like, I would probably put LSU number 1 or Georgia. I mean, one of the two, and the other one would be number 2. But then it starts to get really hairy as far as coming up with number 3. You would think Texas, but what if Arch Manning was like he was in week 1 throughout the course? I think he's going to be much better, and he's going to get composed and all these kind of things. But even if he doesn't live up to the monumental expectations and is just league average, that might not be enough for Texas to, like, for me, surpass Austin Simmons and Ole Miss potentially if he's the one that emerges. You know what I mean? Like, it can get murky real quick at 3.
Yeah, no, I'll go LSU 1, Georgia 2. I'll still go Texas 3 because you mentioned their defense play. I mean, they held Ohio State to 202 yards. And the thing is, as bad as it was for Arch, he looked better second half, and that was like his first start. He's going to get better, and I believe in Sarkisian too. So I'll still say Texas 3. It gets real interesting after that because you look around the league, South Carolina's defense looks good. They got Sellers. I mean, if DJ Lagway is healthy, Florida is super dangerous because we saw how strong they closed the year, beating LSU and Ole Miss. And then, as bad as it was for Bama, I don't think they're like a 5-win team. Auburn looked better. Auburn got me last week winning at Baylor. They look much improved. And then I'll tell you what, the Tennessee Volunteers, who a lot of people were down on, what we saw last week, Nico sucks.
He's not good.
Terrible for UCLA. And the Joey Aguilar thing that people were down on, they hung 45 on Syracuse. So maybe they're going to be a lot better just because Nico is gone, like by association. So, I'll go LSU, Georgia, Texas, top 3. But behind that, man, you could argue. And then I actually want to mention A&M too, because I thought A&M had a great effort. UT San Antonio is good.
Marcel Reed's going to be good, man.
Yeah, and that Concepcion, the NC State transfer receivers, he's a dude. And I watched a lot of that game, and I thought A&M looked really, really fast. Their speed was kind of jumping off the screen. So it's like that 4-9 in the SEC is going to be, I mean, they're all going to beat each other, and it's going to be fascinating. I'll tell you, the Florida LSU game next week is going to be something. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, Florida's got an absolutely brutal schedule. That's the one thing that I always put beside, like, predictions for them. I think if DJ Lagway, we're talking about superstar potential quarterbacks in college football, I would buy my stock in him probably first and most all of them. I just think he's that good. But durability, getting on the field, staying healthy has been his problem, right? So, like, with that tough schedule, if they have him, the full complement of DJ Lagway and all his weapons, yeah, I think they can beat anybody they got on their schedule. But it is the toughest schedule. Not just in the SEC, but in the country. I don't get how Greg McElroy, outside of just emotion, drops Alabama out of his top 25. I'm like, dude, that's a little much. I think they're still going to win 8-9 games at worst, but maybe they don't. Maybe this is the disaster that it could potentially set up to be, because when you see, kids more worried about the TikToks than they're worried about catching passes and stuff, that's not what you're used to from Alabama. But, like, the SEC is wild this year, man. Absolutely wild. A huge range of outcomes, potential outcomes. And you're right about Nico. I really hope that Nico turns it around and becomes a really good college quarterback, gets drafted high and all those things. Because if he doesn't, he has created a new archetype as far as, like, meme culture. Like, if a kid who hasn't done anything, outside of get a star ranking on 3, like a 5-star plus star ranking, starts making demands once he gets to school without any of the production, he's going to be pulling a Nico, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, I really hope he turns it around, because for him, you're right, he looked bad Saturday.
Yeah, and that was the thing that, everybody was down on Tennessee going into the year, but, maybe they upgraded a quarterback. It's not all, and then those Josh Heupel offenses always score a lot of points, but last year the passing game wasn't any good. They could run the ball with Sampson, and I don't know, Aguilar was chunking some bombs. So, maybe the fall of Tennessee's been exaggerated too.
Maybe so. He's Ben Mintz of Barstool. I'm Ben Garrett. Own 3 Rebel Grove. Sign up today for just $1. My thanks to Mudcat Media, Riverland Roofing, all of those who power everything we do here with Mintz every single week. Coming in and talk about the big games of the week, the betting lines, the overs, the unders, where you should put your money, all those kind of things. Nobody does it better. Where are you right now? Like,
Man,
I know that. Yeah.
I'm in the behind me. We got the beautiful woods. Or I didn't show because it's too bright. I'm up in the woods in Connecticut. I can't say I've ever been up here. I'm at Foxwoods, huge resort, man. It's like 8 million square feet resort. We had a DraftKings Barstool poker tournament last night. That was really fun. And then I'm doing play-by-play tonight for Dave Portnoy against Nate. Today was crazy. I just ran around the Great Wolf Lodge like I was 10, rode a bunch of water slides. I did a ropes course. I got so nervous. I was up high, like in a harness. I had to like walk across. I was like, man, I was getting like a little afraid of heights. I got to drive like a 50-mile-an-hour go-kart that I thought was like a race car. I don't know how I'm getting paid to do this stuff, but yeah, it's been great. I'm heading back to Chicago. We got a pretty cool Ole Miss alumni crew up in Chicago watching games at Theory. So I'm gonna be up there on Saturday. I will say this: the Florida game for sure. The LSU game, maybe. We got to see how the next few weeks go. I said I wasn't going to do it, but now the season started, and I don't know. Maybe
you know you can't resist, and
I never miss LSU Ole Miss.
That's what I was about to say. I will believe that Ben Mintz doesn't go to Ole Miss LSU when I see that he did not attend, where he physically sends me his location from not Oxford or Baton Rouge, right? Because dude,
I hadn't missed one in 9 years, so it's a tough streak. So we'll, I feel, it definitely could happen.
Like for Ole Miss's schedule, there are only 2 teams I think they're. If you made me, gun to my head, who is Ole Miss going to lose to? It'd be LSU and Georgia right now. But again, it's wide open variance in the SEC, man.
We're going to find out a lot more about Oklahoma Saturday night because it's the Oklahoma game for Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is better than Oklahoma. It's just having to go to Georgia to Oklahoma back to back. The situation's what scares me about it. And then, looking at the next few weeks, I actually was on the sideline. I'm close to John Sumrall. I was on the sideline at Tulane. I got to go watch football at his house, by the way, which was unreal. But awesome. Tulane, that game scares me. I was at that game last week. They were fond of the football. Retzlaff's a pretty good quarterback. They're catching Ole Miss between Arkansas and LSU. I mean, I think Ole Miss should win, but that one, Tulane looked like a playoff team last week. That one could be – I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to lose it, but that's the one when you look at the schedule, it looks like trappy a little bit.
Well, you mentioned John Sumrall in Tulane last week, playing for Katrina. You're from Louisiana, man. What did you think about Northwestern not allowing Tulane to honor the Katrina team, and wearing the white jerseys and stuff like that? Because John Sumrall, he was heated. He was heated.
Yeah, he said, don't disrespect the city of New Orleans. And his secondary came out and forced 4 picks. There's a fumble. That game, I mean, Tulane destroyed them. I mean, they could have won a lot worse than 23-3. They had the ball in Northwestern's 20 when they kneeled at the end of the game. Retzlaff looked good, too. He had a 69-yard touchdown run. Sumrall told me after the game he thought he missed 3 or 4 throws he should have had. But, I mean, I don't know. Tulane's, I think this could be a really, really good year for them, and they got to be taken seriously. There's a chance they're the best G5 team that can make the playoffs.
And I thought it was cool of John Sumrall to take that stand too, man. Like, it just, you should let them play in the white jerseys. You should, that's a rubber stamp thing. You know what I mean? It's like the gentleman's agreement in football. Those are just things that you do, right?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I thought it was crazy. And Sumrall went super viral saying, don't disrespect New Orleans. So he loves NOLA too. He turned down the North Carolina job before Belichick got offered it. Everybody's talking, where is he going to end up? Because Kentucky, he went there undergrad and is coach there. So a lot of people link him to that possibly one day. But, and he's definitely a rising star in college football. And he loves being part of New Orleans, and it was cool to get to hang out. It was really fun to get to watch LSU Clemson with him and pick his brain and talk about football. I was like, I don't know, it was crazy.
Was he more impressed with the defensive performances? I mean, he was a linebacker coach at Ole Miss, defense coordinator at Kentucky. I mean, look, man, John's been, like you said, on the come up for a while now. What was his kind of takeaway, the biggest takeaway from LSU Clemson?
He was really impressed with Blake Baker, LSU's defensive coordinator. He said he's known him a long time. But, yeah, he was just – shutting them out. What can you say? You shut them out when they had 10 returning starters on offense on the road second half. I thought LSU's defensive improvement, which I thought it would be better because they spent money. I didn't think it would be that much better. I mean, that was dramatic because, I mean, we all remember, like, their defense has been bad the last few years. So, no, he was super impressed by that. And it was just really, really cool to get to hang out with him.
Are you going to get to play some cards up there in Connecticut, or are you
Yeah, I
just
did last night, and I did not win, and I got rained on for not beating these Barstool guys. But what are you going to do? I made 3 good folds, though. I don't think I played that bad. But, yeah, I played last night, and then I'm doing the play-by-play. And World Series Poker Chicago's in a couple weeks. So I'm going to try to hit that up if I can fit it in with football.
He's Ben Mintz. Check him
Never
out.
is. Traveling circus.
I'm saying Barstool Sports. Nobody does it better. He's so busy all the time, but he takes time to stop here with us. Appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk again next week.
Heck yeah, man. Howdy toddy.